Okay, hello everybody. Um, it's my Saturday morning. It's Grandma. It's my Saturday morning aerial yoga swing video or stream, sorry. And so I just wanted to check in with everybody and see how everyone's week was and um show you some new yoga swing moves. So I hope that everybody's doing great, and I'm really excited to be with you guys today. So, anyway, just noticing something. Okay, so we've been working a lot on abs and stuff like that because of my foot. So the foot is doing fairly well. I had I had a little bit of a rough morning this morning, but it's seemed to have the swelling is going down a little. It'll be exciting to see what happens um, on the 19th when I go to get, to get my checkup. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I'm just trying to, you know, take care of everything until then. I have a birthday coming up soon. So I'm going to be 45. So I'm going to do something really, hopefully amazing for that. If nothing else, maybe take the day off because I haven't had a day off in, a couple of years. So anyway, ah, hi, the Riddler. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Armando, hello. How are you? And I wouldn't say I'm superior, I think that that's really what I want. So that's what I've been working for my whole entire life. And I doubt I'll see it in this lifetime, but maybe I can achieve that in a relationship at some point. Okay. So anyway, thank you so much though. I really appreciate that. And I'm not trying to, knock what you're saying. I do appreciate it. So today I think what we're going to do is, I'm going to continue with some abs, and I'm going to continue showing you guys, just the things you can do with the yoga swing, even if you, are injured or something. My back has kind of been hurting a little bit today because I always fall asleep at night with my with my dogs on the couch, and sometimes I end up going up to my bed and I don't even get in the covers because and last night I had some folded clothes on my bed and I just like passed out on top of them. So it's amazing how content creation and cam modeling wipes you out every single fucking day. So um, let's get started. Um, so I want to kind of stretch my back this morning, because it's hurting. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to do that. And so, I like to start out like in this, I could just call this like my starting kind of or I don't know, I guess it's like the basic swing, hammock holding. This is like the first thing that you always do when you get a yoga swing is just learn how to kind of sit here and swing, or, because some people actually get really nervous on stuff like this. They don't like swinging stuff, or maybe they do have a back injury or something. And so you guys can hear me okay, right? I just want to make sure that you guys are able to hear me today. I changed everything up so that I'm just going straight through my camera and microphone. So if you guys can't hear me, please let me know, because I would die again if I was not you aren't able to hear. But I see the mic, feedback little thing going back and forth. So I'm hoping we're good. Okay. Just thought I would check in because last time I should have checked in much sooner and I didn't. So I had that on my list today to make sure I checked in with everybody. Perfect. Okay. So to stretch our back, sometimes it's kind of counterintuitive how our bodies work. Sometimes we think we have like a heart problem or something, but we actually just have heartburn, right? So sometimes we're really bad at knowing our bodies and what works with what. But when my lower back is hurting, I like to stretch my hips. And the reason is because as we age, um, our hips, well, our bodies just in general are not as agile, as they were when we were younger because our bones and all of our cells and stuff don't we can't create them and regenerate them as fast as when we were younger. That's just the aging process. We all have to accept it. I'm going to fight it as long as I can. I'm not fighting it. Growing old is an honor. And I have said that before, and I'll say it again. Anybody who gets to make it, past 20 and every single year, and it's hard for me too to celebrate getting older, but it really is an honor. So hopefully, you know, you all are celebrating every day like it's your birthday, and you're able to see that, how you're here for a purpose, and your purpose is amazing. And hopefully, if you haven't seen it, maybe I can help you get to your purpose, through these videos or through this time or whatever, just because everybody needs encouragement and love and support. And that's what that's what this channel is to do, is to show you guys ways to love and support your body. And then if you do that, you can love and support other people, right? So okay, so I'm doing some hip stretching right now. Now this is so I'm just putting my foot in this longer band, and then I'm just stretching it out like this, and I'm turning as I'm stretching. And the reason is because that's going to be opening my hip, big time. And I'm actually putting all my weight on my bad foot, but I'm putting it towards my heel. So, that's what I'm doing. And hopefully you guys can see in the mirror behind me, but this is good. This is the first time I've really put any real weight just on my foot by itself. And, it's probably, I don't want to do it for too long because I can feel my toes kind of gripping. And that's where I got my surgery, obviously. But I'm trying to put all the weight on my heel. And so it's good to learn how to distribute your weight and just, try different things with your body too for opening. And this is especially important for men, because men, oftentimes, as you age, you guys get kind of sedentary. Now, not all of you guys, but sometimes. And, you're watching football all day on Sundays or whatever you're doing, even if you're fishing or whatever, sometimes you guys sit for long periods of time. And we all do. We all do, for sure. Women, our hips are a little bit more open because, we're created for childbearing. So sometimes we have, we have the ability to have a little bit more openness in our hips, especially if we have had a baby. So guys, you don't have that advantage or disadvantage. I mean, whatever way you want to look at it. But so I would, definitely recommend stretching. And I know from experience and being a coach for many years, I did weightlifting coaching for people that had disabilities. And, men, you guys don't often stretch, before or after sports or anything like that. So definitely I want to recommend, if you ever get one of these swings, do not omit the stretching, because um, what happens is this thing is going to stretch you no matter what, whether you like it or not. And I made the mistake of not stretching one day, and I was trying to go out really wide and try to do like a little bit of the splits. And I was like, oh Lord, I mean, I had so much kind of writhing pain in my legs because the bands in my legs and all that stuff, they're not used to stretching like that. So what I should have done beforehand is what I'm doing right now, and stretched, and done that kind of curving stretch as well, to kind of rotate your hip like that, so that your hip, because that's what you want, is you want the biggest muscle groups in your body to be doing the work when your latent and your secondary muscle groups are, kind of catching up, because we don't work those nearly as much. We think we do, but we really don't. So I'm going to put my leg just in this so it's not near my, surgery. I have these chairs in my house. These are original Eames chairs, library chairs, they're like the chrome. They have the chrome legs. I have this like death fear of catching my toes in between it because it's happened to me before. And it's like, when I didn't have surgery, and it was like the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. My life. I think I actually almost like broke my toe on one of those one time. It's kind of like a rocking chair in your house. Have you ever had a rocking chair in your house where you're always stubbing your toe on it? Like not just stubbing it, but like jamming your toe into it. I hate that. That's why I keep my rocking chairs outside if I have them. So I don't really have rocking chairs because I don't relax that. I should. I should. Okay. So we're going to be stretching out this hip, and we're going to be doing the same thing. So rounding it around, and I'm just doing like, you know, um, squats, I guess, on my one leg that's taking all the weight, right? And I'm still using these to like stabilize, but you want to be able to do this without, stabilizing your arms, because you want to put all the weight in your legs so that you're stretching the big muscle groups and the latent ones, and so that you're working on your balance. Because again, as we age, balance becomes an issue. I don't want to say the same things over and over every single week because that gets boring. But for people that might be seeing this for the first time, these are kind of some core things that I talk about, because this yoga swing, this aerial swing, has really given me like so much more tone and just everything since I've gotten it. I mean, I think it, to a degree, it even builds like a ton of confidence in a way, because you're trying something new and you're learning new things. You're putting your mind and your body to a test, and it's great. And I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I fall on my floor, on my, that's not going to kill me. So it's a good way to like learn how to take some risks, with your body without doing like, too much. I know I heard about this guy. Well, he's like my age. It's a friend of mine's brother. And he used to play flag football every weekend, even until he in his 40s. But I guess for the last couple of years he's been too busy or something and he hasn't been playing. So he went out to play flag football one day, and I guess he pulled like his hamstring. He messed his whole body up. His back is sore. He's like literally in a chair, feeling paralyzed. And this has been for like weeks now. So, and that happened to my ex one time when we were living out in the country. He went to shovel the snow, didn't stretch, didn't do anything. He was a weightlifter, but he hadn't been working out very much that in the last 6 months. And he went out to go shovel the snow and, put his back out. I mean, his back was like, he couldn't do anything. He was walking around like this. So, I would definitely recommend, even for those everyday things. It seems weird, especially if you're in the house with other people, if you're sitting there stretching before you go. But you know what? You can't care what other people think, because that's your body. And you're going to pay the ultimate price if you don't take care of it. So I never care what people think. If they're, people in my house have always been like, oh, why are you doing that? What, that looks weird, or that's okay. You don't have to look, you don't have to watch. So, I'm just stretching because I'm getting ready to mow the lawn or whatever it is I'm doing. So, just let me do me, and you do you. That's kind of how I am. Um, just because a lot of times people, care so much about what other people think, but what they don't realize is other people, they might think something for a minute, but that person doesn't pay your bills. That person doesn't have anything to do with you. So why do you care what they think about you? I mean, I feel that way about my own family. Like they don't do anything to, support me or um, you know, give me any positive affirmations or anything. So what do I care what they think? You know, I don't. Um, and that's something that I had to learn a long time ago, because I was stuck caring what people thought, and it had me stuck on hamster wheel mode. So anyway, so we're stretching still our hips. So now I'm going to go out a little bit, because this is my leg that hasn't probably had as much work on it, because, it's my bad foot. So I think I'm going to do a little bit extra stretching behind. And I'm trying to keep my legs straight this whole time. Reason being is because um, keeping it straight like that is helping. As you can see, I'm holding on pretty tight to these because, my balance is a little bit off right now because I haven't been doing a lot of things with my balance since it's hard for me to balance on that other leg. So, but the reason I'm keeping my leg straight is just for stabilization a little bit more. If I start bending my leg and stuff, then this thing becomes unstable and whatever. So, okay. The Riddler, we hear you and see you super well. Thank you. Well, that's great. Okay. I'm not sure what that means exactly. If I'm offending you with seeing me super well, I hope not. But okay. So anyway, let's uh let's continue. I'm trying not to have this, oh, sorry about that. It's my puppies, no barking babies. I have two of them up here today. Stop. Please stop. Okay, thank you. Mommy's filming. They don't know what that means, but just just shush it. Okay. So I just decided to hold on up here, just to stabilize myself a little bit. And so all right. So I think that we've probably stretched a bit, our legs and stuff. And I think what I'm gonna do is because as I'm trying to work on my back a little bit, is hopefully I can do this and you guys will be able to see me okay. So this is a common, move that I do on the aerial swing is this kind of flipping up and hanging, right? So what I'm doing with this today is I'm using it more for my back. And I do this a lot when I'm done, but I'm gonna do it right now just so I can get some of that stretch in my back and just kind of get it nice and loose, because it's pretty tight. And this is also one of my favorite stretches for my keeping my foot up so that, when it's really swollen, I keep my foot up like this in here and I just swing like this. And it takes the swelling way down in just a few minutes, because I'm keeping it way above my heart like this. So, um, hey, David, how are you? Nice to see you. I'm just, hanging out in my yoga swing. It's nice to see you, though. Um, I'm glad you came by. I was late getting on this morning, and I apologize. I just was, I had kind of just a rough little like pain. Um, I don't, I'm having a lot of these nerve. It's like nerve pain, which is good, but my nerves are they got sewn back together. So, because they cut through all of that stuff when they're getting to your bone. And so it's a good thing that they're tingling and stuff, but it was like shaking my whole leg this morning. Like my whole leg was, shaking from the nerve stuff. And the medicine that they gave me, it makes me so tired. So there's no way I could have taken it and then had my day, doing this and then going to work and all of that. So I thought, but there's no way I could have come on here with my legs shaking like crazy like that. So, something's going on there. I might call the doctor and just say, I think some of it is probably normal, because, I never felt this before with my last two surgeries, but, they did quite a bit more work. It was a couple hours surgery. They were only expecting it to be like 45 minutes, and it ended up being, I think, an hour and 20 minutes that they were in surgery. So, yes, it definitely helps with flexibility, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. I haven't even really started doing any workouts because I was saying that my back is kind of sore this morning, and I got on late because I was, having some nerve issues with my legs. So, this is I'm stretching it, and Stretching helps not just your muscles, but it does help your tendons and your nerves, your skin, everything. Your skin is going to age much better if you slowly, stretch it and your epidermis is, it deals with a lot of environmental stuff and stuff all the time. And so, anything you can do to protect it and, kind of it's kind of, it's a huge part of our bodies. I don't want to say it's a muscle group, but it's important. So, and it takes a huge beating all the time. So, you want to make sure that taking care of your epidermis, stretching helps with that too. Also, oh, thank you so much. What I do every day is I put coconut oil on my skin. I do. It smells great too. I smell like brownies or something like that. People like kids, my exes, they had boys, and the boys, anytime they would hug me, they would say, "Oh, I love the way you smell," because I wear Gucci Guilty, and then I'd always have that coconut oil on. So I probably smelled like a Gucci Guilty brownie or something. But that's how, and people ask me about my face, right? Like how I've been able to keep my face looking so young. And I'll tell you, I use this, and I don't want to like plug anybody, but I do use this Aveda oil that I've been using for years. And it's oil because I live in a very dry state. This state is so incredibly dry, and we're a mile up, from the ocean and stuff too. So the only moisture we get is from the Pacific when we're getting a storm. That's really all we get because we're in this really weird vortex kind of atmospheric like anomaly. And that's why, last summer, no, I think it was the summer before, we had the second worst air quality in the entire world. We were next to China. China. And so the reason, and this state used to be called the brown cloud. Well, Denver used to be called the brown cloud, brown cloud city. The reason is because of how the barometric pressure rises and falls so quickly. And because of that, if a storm is coming in, it pushes everything down and it doesn't let anything up. That's why before a huge storm here, it's always 55, 67. Yesterday it was 75 degrees. Today is 55. We must be getting like just a cold front or something right now. So anytime, because there's droves of people moving here. So this town, when I was growing up, had 700,000 people, Denver proper. It now has 4 million. So, in 3 decades, it's tripled in size. And so is the homeless population. So I don't want to bark on that too much here. But my clothing store and stuff like that, all of that, there's a portion of all of my products that you guys ever buy go to making hygiene bags for homeless women because it's out of control here. The rate has raised 110%. A couple years ago, I was downtown with my daughter, and I don't really go downtown that much not because I don't want to see the homeless people, but this was during COVID and stuff. I mean, we're still during COVID, but this was during the heart of it. And I mean, I was just nervous, to be honest with you, about, being around people that, probably were not taking the best care of themselves at the time. And so, and they probably needed the hygiene bags the most then, but I probably only did it a couple times because, I mean, I'll be honest, I was nervous because I have asthma. And if I get, I did end up getting COVID, and it was the most sick I've ever been in my life. So anyway, um, just to let you guys know that I do take a portion of every purchase to make and hand out hygiene bags for homeless women. I do it for women because they're the most vulnerable population, homeless, just in general. A homeless woman, most vulnerable, especially during the dark hours. And I can't imagine what it would be like to be on your period or something like that and be, I mean, you're basically at the mercy of whoever at night, every single night of your life. And I can't even imagine what that's like. Half the time I feel like, if I don't get my butt on here or get working, I'm going to be like that. And, that's it. I think that, the reason that we shun homeless people so much and we don't like to be around them or, see them on our streets is because I think a lot of us are riding that line. I mean, America, we have so much debt, and it's not just with the government. individual debt is through the roof. And it's getting worse because inflation is getting worse, you know? So people just live off of their credit cards. And I think that there's always that fear, with us that we don't want to admit that we could be like that too. And so we don't want to see it. It's like, oh, woo, thank God, oh, I have 20 bucks on my credit card. Let me go get some groceries really quick, or some. I mean, I've been there. I mean, I've been transferring to a brand new career for the last 2 years, and trust and believe I'm there. I'm there, not credit card debt, but I mean, I live on cash. I try to, but I mean, I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm usually behind in my mortgage and everything because it's hard to transition, but the benefits of it, I think, are going to outweigh what I was doing before. And you guys seem to like my content, so that's the only reason why I continue doing it. I wouldn't do it if nobody liked it. Oh, you do? That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful in Texas. That is I really commend anybody who's willing to, take money or time out of their pockets and or out of their schedules. And I go out and I hand these bags out and I just try to talk to these women. Usually they're pretty fucked, they're drunk or whatever, but that's okay. You never have any idea what they're retaining. And I always give them information for homeless shelters and all kinds of stuff, shelters that you don't have to take a drug test for, or a pee test when you come in and stuff like that. And I really try to have community with them and just find out, what's going on in their lives, what could make their lives easier. I mean, I feel like 100% of the time they need to get off of, hey, what's up, Dean? How are you? They need to get off of drugs, but usually they're on drugs and alcohol because they have a mental illness and they are self-medicating, right? And I know this firsthand because my daughter's father died homeless. And he was schizophrenic and he wouldn't tell anybody that. He was never gonna, he went to the grave with that. He never told any of us. But he didn't shower for an entire year and got gangrene on his genitals. And I've said this before. So the man was, he wasn't all there. So thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah. I did my hair today different. So I got these little foam curler things that have like metal in them because I'm trying to not do so much with it's very sad, the Riddler. I mean, and he was a black man too. So, you know, I think that he felt like the resources weren't there for him, but everybody in the world would have helped him had he stopped drinking. The drinking, he used everybody for everything that they could have because his end goal was always drink, 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 drink. And, he used up all his resources. I mean, he was staying with his first baby's mom for a few months and was sober. And then she said one day he went out, came back drunk, and she said, well, you have a couple choices. One is you can stop drinking and stay. And the other one is you got to go if you're going to continue drinking. She said he was about there for about 20 minutes and he gathered all his stuff and he left. And that's when, he ended up dying. He was actually living in a car at one point with the girlfriend he was with at the time's ex-boyfriend, who was also an alcoholic. Can you imagine living in a car with somebody who has a colonoscopy bag as an alcoholic? I mean, I can't even imagine that. So at this point in our relationship, we were not talking anymore because of, well, one, he was using his kids as his parents, and I was not okay with that. And two, he had stolen a bunch of money from me at one point when I was letting him stay with me. And I just said, we're done. Like, I'm just not accepting that in my life anymore, and I love this man so much. But I realized when he died, I had no idea who he was. I don't think he ever knew who he was. But that's the thing about undying and unwavering love is, you can love people and just where they're at. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do every day. And that's what I try to do with everyone, my family, my fans, everybody, it's just accept you all where you're at and work from there because all we have is today. We don't have anything else. Tomorrow's not promised, yesterday's gone. Regrets are, in my opinion, ridiculous and silly because you can't change them. So you might as well just accept yourself, love yourself, and know that you can be better in the very next moment. I actually just made a painting, and I'll show it to you guys. It's kind of hard to see because I did it with watercolor and it's not quite done. But it says, I get pleasure knowing in each moment I have the chance to be whole. And that's true. Every moment that we have a chance to to work on being whole because we're a whole human being. We're not half, we're not our sex fetishes and then our, and we're not, and then we cheat on our wives here, but we're, we don't do anything disgraceful or whatever at the company that we work at. It doesn't work like that. You know, we take those characteristics and those traits through all parts of us because our brain, it doesn't just cut off, oh, so now I'm at work, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna be a good person here. No, it doesn't really work like that. Our consciousness and our souls and our heart and our minds and our bodies, they're a unit, but they all depend on each other. So, and it's like with weight training. People say, I'm just going to work on my butt right now. So you can work on your butt, but you really, what you should be doing and in my opinion, right? This isn't everybody's opinion, but every time I worked out, I did a whole body workout. The reason is because I hated having do an arms day and then my arms were so sore I couldn't even lift them. I don't think that that's even healthy for you because at the same time, you're using all your other muscle groups anyway. So you might as well just get a couple sets of everything in. And then the next day, it distributes everything, I think, a lot better. And then I hate to say this, but that's a guy mentality when it comes to working out is, I just want to get big in my arms. So I'm just going to do that. And I've seen it where guys are huge up here and they have calves that are this big because they never do any calf exercises. And it looks ridiculous, honestly. And I'm just like, what in the world happened? Because they forgot. But at the same time, that's going to affect them because now you're huge up here. And what's the muscle group that needs to carry your body weight on? Your feet and your calves. That's why a lot of times heavier people have really big calves because their calves get really, really, you know, muscular for carrying all that weight around. So we try to compartmentalize things, and what my goal in life is to become a whole person. That doesn't mean that you can't like sex. It doesn't mean that you can't have fun. You can't be sexual. You can't be, you know, whatever. I mean, but the thing is that we make deviousness and evilness so taboo and wrong. And it's not wrong. You just have to accept those parts of yourself and then say, okay, well, that's a dark part of myself. I could either feed that or I don't have to. And that's a whole decision right there. That's a wholesome decision. And I hate using the word wholesome because people always associate it with vanilla. And I mean, I don't think that I'm vanilla in the least, but I am working every day to be a whole person and using this aerial swing to get there. So anyway, I'm doing a lot of sidebar talking this morning, so I'll get to it. Okay, so we've done a bunch of stretching. I stretched my back. That was my main goal this morning. Was my back was really sore. I think some of it was probably from the shaking of my leg and stuff, and just that twitching because that does happen. I fell out of a hammock one time, and when I fell on the ground, I hit my hip and it knotted up, and I was walking about 1.5 inches shorter on my one hip than my other one. And I had to go to a masseuse and, get it all worked out. And I could feel it. He said, okay, I'm going to release this. And I could feel all of the fluid and stuff getting released out of that. I'd never felt that before. And that was quite amazing. So this is kind of like doing that with your whole body, and you're releasing, that's what stretching does, is it releases toxins out of your body and stuff like that. That nothing else does. The same with sleep. When you sleep, you release toxins. You detoxify yourself like nothing else can. So that's why if you go without sleep for longer than 11 days, you will die. No doubt. Your body cannot live without sleep at all. So I would encourage everybody to get your rest. Does it? Does it really? I'm so glad that you're using that technique to Dean. grabbing it like it's your last. I'm so glad, and that if that helps you, then I feel like I've done my job, in terms of coming, all I'm trying to do is help people, grab onto life and appreciate, what they have. Because, I get comments like my mom sometimes says, "Oh, I mean, well, it's okay. I mean, no, because her husband has dementia." And I'm not trying to, bag on my mother because I love her, but and I say, "Well, mom, here's the thing though. You can walk to the bathroom. That's great. There's a lot of things that we take for granted. Like we think we're having a bad day, but we get to get water out of our faucet. I mean, there's people here in the United States, that are in Flint, Michigan, that are still dealing with disgusting water. All their water has to come from bottles. Their shower and everything. Well, I'm so glad that you love me for that. So, I mean, if you have a house and you're sitting inside watching this, you have a blessing. If you can walk to the bathroom, that's a blessing. If you can see with your eyes and hear and smell and use your five senses, that's a blessing. I mean, that's wonderful. There's a lot of people that don't have those options and they don't have medical care or anything to even get those. So, we really, really need to see the things that we have. And, I've been fighting for displaced people my whole life, for African Americans and American Indians in America and all over the world, the Tamils, the Basque people in Spain, everywhere, the Palestinians. And the bottom line is that, um, you know, yes, there are displaced people here in America, and I would never hope that people have to live through racism or even genderism. Being a woman, I'm not seen as a whole person by the United States until I get married. So, that's when I become a person. That's why marriage is so encouraged and stuff and, whatever. And so, which is whatever, that's a discussion for another day. But the bottom line is, even when I travel and go other places, even with the problems that we have here, and even being, genderized and all this other stuff, there, there's nothing like coming home to America. I mean, there really isn't. I mean, it's a feeling that you have, it's like you can like, and I love other places. I do. I loved Costa Rica. I mean, I loved Iceland. I mean, there's no disparity there. Everybody gets paid the same amount. I left my bag out in a bus terminal for 45 minutes with my wallet right on top. Nobody touched it. All these people walked through a terminal. They were all going to all these buses, and not one person touched my bag with my wallet sitting right on the top of it. I mean, that was a really different feeling, because the, you don't experience that in America. I mean, you're lucky if, like you still have your clothes on sometimes in certain places, because, people, that's what disparity does. You know, when you're desperate and you keep resources from people and you keep, that's what capitalism does. Because we're not teaching everybody at the same level how to learn how to deal with their money, right? And that was a huge problem with my ex, my daughter's dad, is he was never taught how to deal with money. He didn't even really understand what money, like the concept of it, because his mom had been taking care of him his whole life. So when he had to live on his own at 40 something years old and learn how to take care of himself, he didn't know how to take care of the funeral for his mom. I had to do that for her. And I was like, I'm not paying for it though. I said, I'll handle it, but I'm not paying for it. And just all of that stuff. Because, unfortunately, being an African American, he was excluded from a lot of that stuff. So I trade Forex and stuff. And, I've always thought about going and teaching homeless people how to trade Forex, giving them $25 in an account, teaching them how to log in, because I think some of them, they're incredibly intelligent. They're just medicating themselves in a wrong way. And so, they're not healthy. And that's how destructive alcohol is. Oh, thank you. I love to travel. So I didn't travel nearly as much when I had my daughter. That's my goal now. Especially because I can do this job from anywhere. But before she was born, I traveled quite a bit. I've been to South Africa and I've been, a lot of places. And that's another thing is South Africa, we think that things are really bad here. And I'm not saying that they're not with as far as racism and stuff, but they're 40 years behind us when it comes to apartheid and stuff. And I mean, it's so apparent there. And I mean, it's just like, wow. I mean, and this was 20 years ago that I was there. That's absolutely true. And I sometimes fall into that trap of things because I don't interact with a lot of people. And my daughter is going through some stuff, and so she won't speak to me. Her birthday's coming up, and she won't speak to me. I have to cut her phone off because I've been paying for it, but she won't text me back or anything. And it's like, I'm not going to be paying for a phone that you're not going to text me back on. So I have to do that today. And that's heartbreaking for me, to lose a lifeline to her because that's the only thing I have. But at the same time, the repercussions of it, and I saw it with my ex, is if you don't do that with your kids and teach them that they can't abuse you and stuff like that, then they're just going to keep doing that the whole rest of their lives. And that's not acceptable. I don't want her doing that to other people. It's one thing when your kids act up at home, but I don't like it when they do that other places. So a life lesson is way more important than paying for this stupid phone, because this is kind of her MO. And she's like, oh, well, she's not going to really do it because she knows how much I hate not being able to communicate with her. Even if she's not communicating back, I know that all the messages are getting delivered, and I've been telling her for months that I'm going to turn it off. And it's like, today's the day I have to stop. Yep. And you do. And she's 20 years old, and it is the most difficult thing in the world for me to, do all these final pushes because, one, I love her. And two, I'm sure that there's a little piece of me that, likes, wants her to kind of depend on me because I'm her mom and I feel justified because I've been there for her whole life or whatever. And she doesn't really feel like that. And that's perfectly fine. And I have to come to grips with that because, and I've just told her, it really breaks my heart because I just started texting her every day to tell her how much I love her. And I'd like to continue doing that. But just because I'm not telling her that in a text message every day doesn't mean that and I would. So I think what I'm going to have to start doing is when I cut the phone off, I'm going to have to start going down to her job and just being there at 2 o'clock when she gets off and saying, hey, we need to talk. And just facing it, because if I don't face her face to face and do it like that, she'll avoid me for the rest of her life. That's just how she handles everything, is avoidance. When she left to go move in with this guy, she knew that I was not going to be happy with this. She left everything. She left her makeup, her underwear, she didn't, I mean, she came back one night to try to get some stuff, but she was so confused because she thought I was going to have it all packed for her, and I didn't. And so she didn't even know what to take. She took like one tiny little box of some stuff. That was it. And I think that, because she was like, what the heck? Because she said, yeah. Well, I told her at first, I said, yeah, I'm going to pack all your stuff and have it at the garage. And then I decided, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not. Well, first of all, since she's an adult now, by law, I can't do that. I couldn't actually touch any of her things until she had abandoned them for 60 days or 30 days, I think. And that's crazy. Yeah, being independent, and then I think that, she, because she's not right now, she's living with some older man that owns the company that she works for. And he's really bizarre too, because I sent him a text message and told him, he should bring her home. And I don't know what he's doing with a 19-year-old girl or whatever. And he sent me a text back that said, I'm sorry. I think you may have the wrong number. Can you tell me your daughter's name? I know it's his number because I get her phone bill. So, I mean, I don't know what he's thinking, trying to pretend like I don't know who I'm sending a message to. And that kind of a response is just very bizarre to me. That's somebody who, um, you know, I can't even imagine what kind of games those two are playing with each other because, she's a gamer. And not on her computer. So I don't, that sounds just, yeah, yeah. So don't you think that that's a weird text to send to somebody's mother? I'm sorry. I think you may have gotten the wrong person. Can you tell me your daughter's name? Why in the world would you? I just don't, again, I would have to sit down and understand from his perspective where he's coming from. But from a mom's perspective, I was like, you know, I wanted to go and get and beat this guy up because this is not, I mean, just a response like that is so bizarre to me. He was trying to throw me off, and he doesn't understand the resources that I have. I have her phone, so I can locate it whenever I want to. Her phone's on my plan. I mean, I don't think that he doesn't understand the kind of person that he's dealing with because, being in IT for 20 years, I have a lot of resources and I have a lot of people resources too. I've been having a friend of mine in a motorcycle club drive by that house, a couple times a week and just let me know what's going on over there because I don't want her, I don't want to stalk my own kid and she's an adult. But I said, if you're over there, can you just drive by and see, I want to know where she's living and I want to know what's going on, without causing her all kinds of like alarm and stuff like that because I do want her to be out on her own, but I don't, after that text message I got from that guy, I don't trust that. I don't, and maybe that's on me, but I'm not, certainly not, I don't know him at all, but I know he brought her to the house once and he stood way at the end of the sidewalk and wouldn't even come up to the door with her. And I'm sorry, but that's a pussy move. That's not a man at all. Oh, 100% the Riddler. I've experienced that in my life. My family disowned me for having a child with a black man. So, they 100%, they're the most unsupportive, not there for, I've had a business for 2 years and not one person in my family has bought like a $10 piece of jewelry or a t-shirt, anything like that to support me. Not one person in my, except my daughter. I will say my daughter did. I can't even imagine that. My niece, she's starting a company with her boyfriend, a tree climbing and tree, just like getting rid of extra trees and bushes and stuff that you have. And I mean, that's not easy. And so she asked if, I would do, because I'm a graphics designer. So she asked if I would just throw a couple logos together for her. And I did. And I told her she didn't have to pay me. But she sent me $75 on Venmo anyway. That's a great, she's got some good, I think that hopefully I instilled some good, because she kind of looked to me a lot. I think because, my sister's way different than me. And so, yeah, kind of a tree surgeon. Well, she's actually going to go to, she's going to get some certificates from the Arbor Association and she's going to start finding out, certain things about the stuff on the ground because her boyfriend is the one that has, and I don't know if he has insurance. I need to talk to them about that, but he's the one that goes up into the trees and, cuts down branches and stuff like that. And so, she's trying to learn how to identify things on the ground that could be problems. And I told her, take pictures. I said, because she's asking all, she says, well, what should I do for this? What should I do for that? Well, that's true, the Riddler, but that's not, it's not that I have nothing in life. I have myself and I have the ability to support people like my family never has. I mean, the reality of the situation is I could look at it like I have nothing, but I actually look at it like I have everything because at least I have myself. That's what that taught me. It taught me to learn how to stand on my own instead of depending and thinking that I have a bunch of people that aren't there for me. And that's what they wanted. They wanted, and the reason that they're not supporting me with anything that I'm doing is because they don't want to see me succeed. Then that means that they were wrong. They were wrong thinking that I was just going to be a loser, because of my ex and stuff, that I was just going to end up being a loser, whatever. And so, yeah. Well, you know what? She probably married him because, well, but and that's true, right? That's true. But, my mom hates the fact that, we have so much distance between us. And it's because of the choices that she's made in terms of supporting me, right? But I still try to throw the white flag and I'd say, hey, mom, you want to come over and I'll give you a pedicure or I'll do something for you. And she comes over and I have, cookies made and I just want it to be a nice, enjoyable experience for her because she's 82 years old. And, and like with your sister, if she might have married an house, my sister did too. I mean, her husband was he had passed away, but your sister married him and he's not your sister, you know. But and maybe there is some drama, but I think, if it's not too much off of you to just tell her that you love her, every once in a while and stuff like, hey, I'm not asking you to call me. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just wanting to tell you that I love you and, I'm here for you. That's it, and because sometimes the way that we support ourselves is by extending a hand to somebody else that, you know, because I know I'm a hard ass. When I'm done with somebody because if somebody tells me they're going to borrow money from me and then they don't pay me back, I usually block them from my phone and stuff because I'm like, that tells me a lot about how they feel about our relationship. And so, but you can't just block your family members all the time. I mean, I have for years. But at the same time, I get something from being a good, dignified person to everybody, and that includes my family. Because the best example you can be as a human being is when people treat you undignified, to continue treating them dignified. That shows maturity and it shows so much strength of character when you can do that and let it go, not let it affect you. Yeah, I think so. I mean, getting her, well, she loves anybody that touches her feet because, they're throwing up gang signs kind of because she's always worn shoes that were too small. But that's something she loves more than anything, is having her feet touched. And so that's something that I can do. I say, well, why don't you come by? That way I don't have to go to their house. They live in an apartment about an hour away, and my stepdad's there, and he always feels really awkward around me. And that way she can come. She likes my dogs, and so she can come to my house. I can set her in this big chair I have in my living room and mess with her feet, and that she loves that. I mean, that's heaven to her. And my sister would never in a million years do that. My sister goes to church with her every Wednesday night and Sunday or whatever they do, but she would never do that. Did you? And I have blocked my family, but my mom, I will say this about my mom is she doesn't let her kids just, she'll keep hounding you until you call her, and I do like that about my mom because she's like, no, these are my kids. And I need to do that with my daughter more. I'm kind of the type of person that I'm like, well, if you don't want to talk to me, then I'm not gonna beg you. But with your kids, they don't know how to handle stuff. And the only way that my daughter is going to learn how to, reach out to other people is if I reach out to her. And I've never really been like that because, I mean, I felt like when her dad was, really using his kids as his parents, I thought, I'm never going to do that. But, you know, being a support, and I know my daughter, she said to me, you support everybody, but you don't support me. And that's not true. But I've supported her by giving her a house to live in and, by having, food in the fridge all the time and all of those things for 20 years. So I don't know, I feel like, how can she say that? But I know that she's talking about time and effort. The thing is I put tons of time and effort into her. But it was always, she never really gave a shit that much. It was just like, because it was free, she threw it away. And that's what we all do when things are given to us for free. So I appreciate, because my family's been the way that they are to me, when people are supportive and kind and dignified to me, because I would not know how to be this way to y'all and to anybody else if I wasn't treated so poorly. And so, but at the same time, I also don't allow that anymore. There's a point you have to get to too, where you say, look, this is enough. And so if you got to that point and you had to block them, it's not, in my mind, I'm saying it's not forever, but at the same time, you don't know if today could be your last. So, if you feel compelled to check in with your brother or something and just tell him that you love him, do that. Do that, because there's no harm in that. There's no harm in ever treating somebody dignified. If they treat you undignified back, you have the opportunity to say, I'm done, but well, that's true. So that's called boundaries, right? So when you're reaching out to somebody, and that's the thing, is you can say, and that's how I started out. I say, I just wanted to check in with you. I'm not asking for a call back. I'm not asking, I'm not trying to pry into your business. I'm just asking, I'm just telling you that I love you. That's it. And so you set your boundaries right from the beginning. Like, look, I don't, you don't have to say I don't want to hear your drama because she might have changed. Her life might be settled. You don't know that unless you find out. And people can change. It's not often that they want to, but when somebody really wants to change, when somebody wants to stop drinking or doing drugs or something like that, and they're determined, they will do it. And I can tell you right now because I have. I used to be when I was a teenager, I mean, I was a mess. I was out of control. And it was a lot because I was, kicked out at 14 and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was just running wild. But I did always go to school. I didn't end up graduating from high school. I took the GED to get into college, but I always was trying to be in school as much as possible. But I had to work. And I also, but I like to party. I mean, because I was like on my own. So I was like, woohoo, I had an apartment, I mean, of course, my house was a party house because it didn't have parents there. But I missed the interaction that I would get with kids. So I loved going to school too. I'd go there for my social time, not really going to class, but hanging out every place but class. So, you know, I was, I was really wild and I did some crazy stuff. Like I ordered an Apple computer one time on my parents' credit card and they were out of town. And I took a bus because I didn't have a car at the time and my bicycle all the way to their house to meet the UPS guy so I could get that computer. I mean, I calculated some crazy stuff. I used to steal their car all the time. I would convince all of my girlfriends and all my friends to steal their parents' cars because when I wanted to go somewhere, I wanted to go somewhere. And no one was going to hold me back. When I was really little, that all the parents in the neighborhood would not let their kids play. And it's crazy, like thinking how I am now and that I used to be like this. But I mean, I was, I was not a great person. Um, you know, when I was a little kid, I was 6 or 7 years old. None of the kids in the neighborhood were allowed to play with me because I had such a dirty mouth. And I'm not really sure where that came from. It must have been something that I heard from somewhere because I heard it and I picked it up right away. And when I'm not on here, I do have like a trucker's mouth. Um, and that's kind of something I like about myself a little bit. But at the same time, um, I had to learn when it's appropriate and when it's not. You don't know that when you're a little kid. And so the parents in the neighborhood did not like it when their kids were playing with me because I was, always like one time I had this idea. We had this bridge to put a hose, a water hose, tie it up there. And it was my idea, and swing from it. Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. And that's what I had to get to a point with my kid. I've tried to teach her the difference between right and wrong and stuff. And she's a thief. She steals from Target, any place that she wants. And from me, I have a fingerprint lock on my door, and I always have to. And I have for about 5 years because she comes in my room and takes whatever she wants. She rifles through all my stuff. I have a safe in my closet for passports because she just rifles through whatever and takes whatever she wants. She doesn't care. And I've never done that to her ever. I never used to go through her room or anything because I wanted to have that mutual respect. And I told her when she was growing up, I said, when you go out into your life as a yeah, yeah. And that's difficult. And the same thing happened with my parents. I mean, I was raised in a born again Christian family. And my mom was always talking about, difference between right and wrong and what Jesus would do and all this stuff. But then I would see them do really shady stuff to each other, to other people in their church groups and stuff. I mean, they moved out of the country and lived in Costa Rica for several years, for about 5 years. Well, they lost a bunch of their money and stuff because, it was really expensive. Expensive in Costa Rica because if you don't have dual citizenship, every 90 days you have to leave the country for 72 hours. And that starts to get really expensive. My stepdad got approved for double citizenship, but not my mom. So things started getting a little bit out of control with money. When they moved down there, roads had only been around for about 10 or 15 years. So it cost them it's cost them $10,000 to get a Mitsubishi Montero because all the cars have to be approved by the government because the hills are so steep. They won't approve some cars to even be there because they're just going to sit there because they won't be able to get up the hill. So if it's not a stick shift or it doesn't have enough, horsepower and stuff like that, or like a Hemi or something, they're not going to approve it. So you can't, like my parents they wanted to bring, my mom had a Porsche and my stepdad had a Lexus, and it was going to cost them $50,000 to take those cars down there. And then, I mean, I'm pretty sure they would have gotten approved, except that my mom's was an automatic, so I don't know. I think both of them were actually. So, they have really, it's interesting down there. You learn all kinds of crazy things. And, the interesting thing about that country is in 1948, they abolished their military. So there's no military there anymore. They don't have a military presence, but the local police are very corrupt. And so, there's goods and bads about every country. Well, I'm going to tell you something, the Riddler. We're all hypocrites to a certain degree. That's one thing that we really are. We're paradigmatic beings. We live in, we have really strong values on one end when we're talking about it. But if we're put in a situation, sometimes our values become a little bit shaky because real life is way different than when you're just sitting there talking about it. And that's why a lot of people that are involved in a lot of people that are involved in church groups and things like that, they're in a bubble. They like to be around people like them. They like to be around, and so they're never challenged, but their principles are never challenged. For me, I'll tell you, I'm a CAM model. My principles are challenged every single day. Every single day. Guys ask me the craziest things you have ever heard of, to do things with my dogs, my daughter, all kinds of stuff. And I say, sometimes I don't even say a word. I just kick them out. But sometimes I give them a piece of my mind and say, that is so inappropriate and disgusting. If this is what you crave to get off in the world, then, maybe you might want to seek out some counseling or something, because, I don't understand how it's okay for you to even ask somebody that. I bet you wouldn't go into another model's room and ask them that. If you're trying to get a reaction from me, all I think is that you're gone, you're out of my room. But, sometimes people need to hear, because they feed themselves with so much negativity and destruction. And, it's, again, that's a paradigmatic situation. Here I am telling somebody that their fetish is disgusting or whatever, but I'm on a campsite. Well, again, all models on the site it's to their discretion. They can say what they want and what they don't want, and agree and don't agree to, but one thing is that if you tell a customer you're going to do something and you can't provide that service, they can ask for their money back. And that's, if there's that's a penalty towards you, and that hurts the site overall, because you can't, the reason that so many banks don't take money in the adult entertainment industry is for that very reason, because if people feel they were offended, and my specialty is race play, and so that's why I do it on my own site. And I'm actually going to be updating my terms and all my stuff on my site, because I need to have proper language around the fact that, and I do every single time somebody agrees to a session, which they cannot do on the campsites. But when they agree to a session, I say, I'm 18 years old. You have to check a box that says I'm 18 years old. I've agreed to this type of, of role play or whatever it is. And I have language around that, because if somebody, because it's through PayPal, if somebody says, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, or she was racist towards me, that's why on my website and everything, I have the word race play and all of that stuff. It has to be there somewhere because if you don't have language that supports what you're doing, then that's considered false, false advertising, giving false services and stuff, I mean, so people have to know exactly what they're doing on there. And and that was hard for me in the beginning, because I was trying to keep it kind of covert, because I didn't want, on this, I originally had it on GoDaddy, and they don't allow adult stuff. And I don't do anything adult on the site. I mean, on the site itself, I'm not, I mean, there might be some, maybe provocative pictures or something, but everyone signs something when they come in saying that they're over 20 anyway. So, um, I wasn't taking money on the site itself for anything like that, but I was, that was a service I was providing. Because I don't do it through the site. That's how I make the appointments and stuff like that, or I did. But anyway, GoDaddy kicked me off. I got kicked off of a couple platforms doing it also, cam modeling. And so that's why I decided to do something on my own is because, you know, it was a service that people really wanted, but the language and stuff like that, back to my point is that we are paradigmatic people. We do live, we do have some hypocrisies. I know a lot of guys that say they're not gay, but they've been to prison before for long periods of time, and they say, well, in prison, that, you know, that's well, I'm not saying that I know a lot of them personally, but I know that, there's guys that come onto the site all the time for at the cam model sites, and they're in prison, and these things come up here and there, but they say, yeah, I mean, in here, that's not outside. So yeah, on the outside, I'm straight. Well, again, that comes into your, so these are all things that we live with it. And I agree with you. The thing with hypocrisy when it comes to our government and stuff like that, when it comes to saying things like in our Constitution, like people are free, and then you deal with something like racism or gender inequality and stuff like that, is the symptoms of that is drug abuse and drug addiction and mental issues, because that's what happens when when things are not holistic. That's exactly what happens. We all deal with the consequences of that. So we deal with it in society, and we deal with it, in our own making. Right, exactly. And that's exactly right. To a certain degree, I still, I mean, I get it. I understand the race play. But when I was figuring it out, I was having a really hard time understanding, why somebody would want this. But you know, and there's a lot of people who don't want it, I'm really, because that's my specialty and that's what a lot of people come to me for, I'm pretty provocative with it, in the sense that I use the N word like in my public chat and stuff, because if somebody comes in my room and has the name BBC or something with it, then I know most likely what they're coming for. Now, that's not always a good thing though, because there's some guys that don't like it. They do not like it at all. They think that people are damaged when they like it, and and they say things to me like, I'm propagating racism and all of those things, and I have a response for all of that. But they don't want, most of the time when it's like my family, they're born again Christians. There is nothing you can say, especially if you're trying to prove them wrong. That just makes people more steadfast in their belief system. So anytime you're trying to prove it, regardless of if they have a point or they can back it up, they become so steadfast in their belief system, because nobody wants to believe that something that they've believed this whole time has flaws in it. But every single one of us that believes in anything we believe in, we have flaws in our thinking, because most of the time we believe it because it was a construct that was taught to us. It's not because we have any basis of belief. It's not because we've actually, like, for instance, that the earth is round. Like a lot of things with our atmosphere, dinosaurs, all those things, we have no idea. None of us are going to go out and, we don't know if dinosaurs really existed. None of us. So with the earth being round, the only way that I know that that's true in my head, right, is that the sun rises and falls, in a revolution at the same exact time every single day. Not the same exact time, because it changes, right? But every day I know that the sun's going to come out and the sun is going to go down. And that's something that I've seen since the day I was born. And so when they tell me that the earth is round, I'm tempted to believe that because I haven't gone out. I haven't looked and seen, I haven't been to space to see all the earth and all that stuff. I'm trusting everybody that NASA and everybody else that goes out there. I'm trusting that what they're telling us is the truth. But we don't actually know that. And it's the same exact thing with how high is the moon? I don't know. I have no idea how high the moon is. Um, but you know, all of those things are and people even have a debate with yeah, a lot yet to discover. And people have a debate with if NASA, they say, why is our government spending all this money to discover space when they could be spending that, helping people here on Earth? And that's a good point. I mean, we don't know. I mean, there's a company here in Colorado that's called oh, I have to think of the name. But it's all it is 100% is a space discovery program for having people go take vacations and stuff to space. The whole premise of this whole entire company is setting up computer infrastructure and infrastructure for space exploration and for people to travel there for vacations and stuff. I mean, because people always tell me, oh, you should get a job at this place. I wish I could remember the name real quick, but and I'm like, well, first of all, they don't really hire people remote. But I just don't know if that's something that, now that I'm older in my life, the the companies that I work for and what they stand for mean a hell of a lot more to me than they did when I was younger. I worked for a lot of government agencies when I was younger, and I mean, number one, you get stuck in those places, and you don't learn anything, and then you can never leave. And number two, the bureaucracy is just, you know, through the roof. And then, number three, I mean, I don't really know if I agree with a lot. I mean, I definitely don't agree with their human resources policies and stuff like that, because I was sexually harassed at every single one of those agencies. And, so it's like, well, oh, okay, I see our local government, our state government, our federal government, you guys all, agree that it's fine to treat people and women that way. And I disagree. So me staying in a place like that is total hypocrisy to me, because then I'm just, ah, would you? Well, I love doing that. I really do. I'm a really an animal person, but big time. I used to have 3 horses. And they absolutely loved me. When they would hear my car coming down the street, down the dirt road to come home, all 3 of them would just rear up and they would come to the fence. We had an electric fence, and they would come to the fence and they would just be, kneeling and just, they were just, like going crazy. Um, just, I mean, they absolutely loved it when they heard my car. And I mean, you don't think that horses and stuff, care that much. And horses, we've made them completely dependent on human beings. I mean, there's, no way they can really survive on their own. But a lot of people say, in the like the spiritual community and stuff, because I know a girl who does therapy with horses, and she says that horses exhibit more of the female characteristics than male, both male and female horses. Just in general, they have more female characteristics overall. They have that kind of energy. And so it kind of, that kind of makes sense to me, that because the guy I dated that owned the horses, they couldn't stand him. They really couldn't stand him. And he was a horse trainer. But these horses would, I mean, they just absolutely, they would listen to me, and they were really easy for me to kind of guide around and um teach, because I'm definitely a person, right, from my core, from my inner being, that I'm a person that likes to I'm more of like, get it with the carrot, the carrot, not the stick. I'm all about, diplomacy and understanding where somebody's at, even an animal. I think we have as much responsibility to be dignified to animals, to anything that's living, as we do to other human beings. I mean, we really do. If it's alive and it's trying to thrive, then we should be treating it dignified, in my opinion. So, again, that's we could go on about that forever, but um that I've heard that, and I would love to do that. I mean, I like, you know, I haven't spent very much time in Mississippi, I'll be honest with you. If any. I mean, I think I've driven through it like once. So I don't, I don't know how Mississippians would take me, but I at least I have a little bit of like a Texas drawl or something. So I don't know. Maybe I'd be okay down there. I just worry about places that are really conservative like that because I'm not. um, but I'm always willing to, try new things. And I I've heard though that Mississippi, especially as you get further south, it's almost like, almost tropical in a way. Because I've always wanted to go to Corpus Christi and I've never been there either. Because I've heard that it's just like absolutely so beautiful. So I've been doing a lot of talking, and I've been stretching my arms this whole time. But I was just gonna end this today doing some, Supermans that I do. I was doing all this stuff last week, of course, and nobody could hear me. So I wanted to just touch on, the a little bit of some of that stuff so that at least you can hear me talking. It's funny, I'm gonna tell you that I re-released that, with some music to it and stuff because I couldn't get the sound back because it wasn't there. So I couldn't put captions or anything to it unless I watched myself, which I'm pretty good at reading lips, but that was going to take a lot of time. So I just decided to put music to it. And I didn't take the other one down because I already had almost 3,000 views of it with no sound. And I was like, okay, I see. People really don't care what I'm saying, I don't think. But it's like, so, which is okay. I mean, it is what it is. So I did realize that. So I left it up there because, maybe some people don't want to hear all my chatter. So, um, and I get that. Sometimes I am too much for my own self, at times, but I accept myself where I am and I'm patient and I just think, okay, well, next time let's hold it back a little. Everybody doesn't need to hear all your opinions. But I mean, at the same time, it's my channel. And, if somebody doesn't like it, they can leave. Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do because that's how I feel. I mean, I don't think that you'd be here if you didn't, right? But, I mean, I'm one of those types of people that you either love or you hate. You either really like me or, I challenge your principles and your values so much that you don't like to be around me. And that, a lot of my family is like that. They do not like it that I challenge, you know, because they think, well, this I've seen this many times in my life, so I believe that that's how that person is. And then I prove them wrong, and they're like, oh, well, now I don't know what to think. Now my being is shaken because you love. That's good. Because and that's what I aim to do every day is to shake myself, be shaken, and to shake the people around me. That's what leaders do. And I was given that I was given that staff in life. That's the stuff I carry around with me, because I've just always been like that with everything, fashion, anything. And so that's just me. And so I look at it as a gift. Not everybody has that ability. As I've gotten older, I've learned how to be, a strong person and all of that, but also kind of be a wallflower, because I really hate going places and just being the center of attention. Um, I'm not big on that at all. Yeah, that's right. Shake the foundation. And the reason is because when I'm challenging other people, I'm challenging myself too. I'm challenging my own beliefs. And we all need to do that. We all need to take stock about, let me think, is this belief, does this serve me? Like I talk to people about fetishes. This is something that you've been doing since you were a little kid because it served you then. Does this serve you now, like in your marriage or in your whatever? Because it doesn't seem like it is from my perspective, but you let me know. And then they think, oh, yeah, I guess it is. It doesn't really serve me because my life doesn't reflect any of that anymore. My life doesn't, I'm not trying to survive, this incident, this traumatic experience that happened to me because I'm an adult now. So I can, yeah. And so I have the choice to either, to heal myself, which every single one of us do in every moment, or I can keep holding on to this thing that doesn't serve me and keep living in the past. And that's exactly what happens when we have obsessions for things that, served us when we were younger and stuff. Like even food and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I'm obsessed with this because it reminds me of, going to the state fair. Well, I don't think that that's probably a very destructive obsession or fetish, right? But some, they can mess up your whole entire life. I mean, they can mess up your ability to have relationships. You know, you can be addicted to drugs and alcohol. I mean, there's all kinds of things that come from unhealthy thinking because at the core, that's what it is. Your thinking is unhealthy. You're using something to soothe yourself that you're telling your mind that, soothes you, but you haven't tried anything else. So how do you know, what else is out there? Because most of us at the core are scared to try something new and stuff like that because of what people are going to think about us. So we just keep holding on to this thing and keeping it in the back of our mind and hiding it from everybody else. And, that gets tiring. I like to live my life as a transparent person. And again, that's a that's a foundation shaker because a lot of times it's really hard to be transparent because people are evil and you're transparent with people and they take that, but there's a way I think that you can be transparent, and content creation is a one way that's really taught me that you can still be a transparent person and not give everything away. You can be transparent in the information that you give to an audience, but that doesn't mean that you tell them everything, right? And so that's the thing that we have a really difficult time with in America because nobody's taught that, our government or nobody's taught self-control, just having self-control. We're all out of control with everything. We have Vegas, what stays in Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, but when you leave Vegas, you're still that same person. So what are you saying? I mean, so we have all these ways of justifying this out of control behavior all the time, but we're never teaching people how to live in moderation, how to live in moderation with their finances, how to live in moderation with their actions, how to live in moderation with drugs and alcohol. Yeah, exactly. Having restraint. And there's negative and positive words in our vocabulary and stuff. And I don't always like using the word restraint because again, some people are going to hear that and that might that might have a bad connotation to it, right? Especially in my experience, like women, because sometimes we're restrained physically. And so, you know, so anyway, that's I agree with you. I just tend to use, I guess I try to use words that are about self accountability, right? And so, I just feel like self control is a really important thing that we should have. And that was one thing I really didn't see my parents have a lot of either. My mom was kind of this. She'd get the child support from my dad, and we'd go shopping. And then we didn't have food in the fridge for the next couple of weeks because we spent all of her child support money at no, you don't have to say oops. I'm just saying for me, just for me. I just try to be careful, saying words like that. Because, I I spent time, on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I spend a lot of time with homeless women, not a lot of time, but and so I realize when I've said things like that, that people kind of, and that's something that I'm a very abrupt, sometimes I don't realize how people take me. And even though I'm coming with love all the time, even with my kid. She thinks that I'm mad. Sometimes I'm not mad. I'm just passionate. And I love her so much that I want her to understand what I'm saying. But you know what? She's never going to get it until she experiences it on her own. And just like with, these words and stuff, I try to, I've been doing a bunch of research. Thank you so much. Yes, 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 yes. The Riddler, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm actually getting ready to wrap up here anyway. I was doing a couple of these super band exercises and I was supposed to be wrapping up. So, but yeah, so I'm actually going to start having a course that I'm going to have. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, but on positive speak and positive dress, like how you can actually change things in your everyday speech and in the clothes that you wear to reflect positivity. So, I'm all about that to the core. And I try to found in no filter. Well, that's true. And I should probably be a little bit careful with that. But I do there's a girl on here that I do like to watch every once in a while. And she's actually really good with, she's got the whole thing down with consistency and all that stuff. She doesn't have that many followers. She has about like 700, but she's been on for a long time. She has like 700 videos. And I thought to myself, man, because I only have like 12 videos or something. And I was so lucky that some of mine went, so big that I have a lot of followers and stuff. And so I was like, so anyway, it was recommended on my channel. So I watch her sometimes. And she doesn't have a filter really at all. She says whatever she wants. And there's guys that come in her room and they say, take your clothes off or do all this and that. And she kind of reminds me of myself, but like a Black woman of me. And she goes, yeah, she goes, you know what? You treat me like a trick. I'm going to treat you like a trick. And she says, and if you're going to be, she said, that's just undignified. She's like, that's undignified. And she says, and so, what I'm going to direct you is right to my Cash App. So she says, and I'm like, I love that about her. I was like, man, this chick. So every once in a while when she comes on, I go into her room and and she always asks me, Amazon. She says, what? Because I don't know. I don't think she's ever come and discovered me or whatever. I don't know. Maybe she has, but I've said before that I would love to have her as the podcast guest on here, because I think it would be great if if she and I talked like over Zoom or something, and you guys could all hear our conversation, because, I think that would be really fun. Hamstring stretch? Yeah, of course. Hamstring stretch. Oh, you mean the one where I flip up? The flip up one? Yeah, I think that's the one you're talking about. When I put my feet all the way up here, right? I did that earlier, but yes, I will. Yeah, I'll do that before I go. So yeah. Or are you talking about having my foot all the way out here, like that one? Either one? Sure. Okay. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. You guys will have to give me your opinion and let me know, if you think that would be something that you guys would want to hear. Maybe not. Maybe you're just trying to, uh, see me do my yoga swing anyway. So, but of course, you don't have to watch it or join into it. This is something that, you would want. That's the nice thing about the having your channels, is that if people want, they can join in, and if they don't have to, and they can even unsubscribe from you. I've even had, I think I've had 10 people unsubscribe from me, and I'm like, well, that sucks, but that's okay. I wish I could give them a survey and say, can you tell me, why you unsubscribe, just so I know. I appreciate that feedback. So are you talking about this stretch, this hamstring stretch, or are you talking about my front one? Like this. Anyway, I'll just do these. Um, yeah, so, and again, and this is a good way to like end it. Um, this yoga swing really has given me so much, just, I think just like a sense of freedom in a way, just to be able to try something new and do something that I had no idea, how much you could actually do with this thing and how much it was going to change my body. Again, I got it more as like a novelty thing because the option at my job was, these vibrators that everybody has that people can control. And I was like, man, that, everybody and their mother has one of those. And so I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do that. So oops, about to knock my plant over here. I forgot. It's growing kind of tall, and I put it out here because I put another plant in its place in my bedroom because it gets so much sun in there. So anyway, yeah. So here's my hamstring. I got it. My foot is. I'm having some weird nerve pain today. So anyway, so stretching these hamstrings at the end for Dean. And I can also end it too with like a little bit of arms and some abs, because my back, really was hurting earlier. I could definitely probably stretch it out a little more. I might do the yoga, the foam roller when I'm done with this, just to give it a little extra stretch. And then hopefully I'll be good for the rest of the day. Sometimes when I work a lot of hours during the day, and I'm kind of rigid right now because of my foot. I just tend to kind of stick to the same movements, and I notice that definitely affects my back. So, anywho, thank you guys so much for tuning in to me today. I will see you guys next week. But I just wanted to thank everybody for, coming and seeing me today. And this will be, published as soon as it's over. But I usually go in and try to, edit it and add some music and stuff to it and just all of that stuff. So I really enjoyed everybody. And you guys know where you can find me when not here. Man, it has transformed my abs. I had pretty nice abs before, and I'll be honest, but for me, it doesn't feel like I'm doing a lot of work on there. That's what I love about it. Is I don't, I was just on that for an hour and a half. I mean, maybe 45 minutes total, if that, because I was chatting and down on the floor. But you know, you don't realize how much you're doing with your core and stuff like that when you're engaged in that thing. So I'm going to be sore. I guarantee you I am, because it's a workout. So big hug to you too. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and you all know where to find me off of here, right? So I will talk to you guys soon. I'll post something this week. I try to post at least something every week, just to check in with everybody. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.